The cold rain pelted my face as I crept through the abandoned streets. I kept my rifle tight against my shoulder, ready to swing up and fire at the first sign of trouble. This whole damn city was trouble now, full of the walking dead and bands of raiders scraping out a brutal living. But I had to make this run, had to get to the hospital on 5th and Maple. My friends were holed up there, low on food and ammo, barely able to keep the barricades closed against the swarming zombies. If I didn't reach them soon, they'd be monster chow for sure. I dashed across an intersection, the soles of my boots splashing through deep puddles. The familiar moans echoed from all around, but I didn't see any staggering silhouettes lurking in the rain and fog. Still, I knew they were out there. There were always more. No matter how many I put down, they just kept coming. Finally, the hospital was in sight. But between me and the barricaded entrance were the wrecks of a dozen military vehicles and the remains of bloody firefights from when the city first fell. Worst of all was the big church directly across from the hospital. It had become a stronghold for a violent gang of raiders. I could see shadows moving behind the stained glass windows. They had lookouts posted. There was no way I could sneak across this open killing ground without being seen. I had to find another way. I backtracked 2 blocks and slipped down a narrow alley choked with abandoned cars. The alley curved behind the church. I just needed to get close enough to take out the lookouts, then sprint like hell across the street to the hospital doors. I crept along, rifle sweeping side to side, finger curled lightly around the trigger. The ones who worried me most weren't the mindless zombies, but the marauders with half a brain left. Crafty bastards using the collapse of society as an excuse to indulge their worst instincts. There, beside a rusting dumpster, a loading dock where deliveries used to be made to the church, I scrambled up as quietly as I could. The ancient metal creaked and groaned beneath my weight. I froze, listening, ready to blast anyone who came to investigate. After an agonizing moment of silence, I slung my pack off, fished a pair of bolt cutters out of it, and went to work on the padlock sealing the dock doors closed. It gave way with a snap, and I winced as the sound echoed down the alley. But again, no one came running. Inside, the musty darkness swallowed me. Faint gray light filtered through cracks in the boarded-up windows. I swept my flashlight back and forth, catching glimpses of stacked chairs, forgotten hymnals, other mundane relics of the church's past life. I just needed to get to a vantage point where I could look down on the street and take out those lookouts. A stone staircase led up to the choir loft. I ascended slowly, testing each step before committing my weight, but the stairs held firm. At the top, I peered through a slit between boards. From here, I had a clear line of sight on the 2 lookouts lounging by the front doors 30 yards below. I rested the barrel of my rifle in the gap and looked through the scope. The crosshairs wavered over the man on the left. I slowed my breathing, steadied my aim, and squeezed. The rifle bucked and boomed, shattering the church's silence. Before the first man even hit the ground, I swiveled and dropped the second lookout. I was already charging back down the stairs as panicked shouts rose from the street. I hit the dock doors at a dead run and erupted into the alley. Furious voices yelled behind me. Boots pounded in pursuit. I careened around the corner onto 5th just as gunshots whizzed past, punching holes in the brick and shattering windows. Sprinting headlong, I held my rifle high and loosed wild shots back down the alley to make them keep their heads down. The hospital was so close, just across the street, but a 3rd raider had appeared, taking cover behind a pickup and snapping off a barrage with his assault rifle. I jinked right, then left. Bullets chewed the asphalt around me. I snapped shots back with my offhand, driving him down just long enough for me to dash the last few yards. I hit the barricaded entrance at full speed, slamming bodily into it. "It's me. Open up," I shouted. Barrels poked through gaps in the barricade. My friends, ready to defend to the last. But then they recognized me. "He's back. Open it up," came the cries from inside. They dragged aside a bookcase and I dove through. I collapsed onto the linoleum floor as they slammed the barrier back into place. Made it. By the skin of my teeth. Just barely, but I made it. My friends clustered around, firing questions about what it was like out there now. Had I brought extra ammo and medicine like I promised? What took me so long to get back? I pushed through and went to a window with a view of the church across the street. My rifle shots had stood up the zombies around it. They were closing in hungrily on the surviving raiders. Screams and gunshots echoed over as the 2 groups collided. It was a bloodbath. The raiders would take down plenty of zombies, but there were always more. They didn't stand a chance. My friends kept peppering me with questions, but I barely heard them. I kept staring out at the unfolding carnage I had unleashed. I had saved my friends, but cut down the living in the process. Dangerous, desperate times called for dangerous, desperate measures. I had done what was necessary, I told myself. But as I watched the raiders' final moments, heard their dying screams, I wondered if that primal brutality also lurked in my depths, waiting to emerge. Did saving some lives now mean risking my own humanity? Or was it already too late for me? I turned away from the window, and the friends clustered around me. Did they see that darkness in my eyes? Could they sense the cold ruthlessness I'd embraced out there in the streets? But they just kept chatting and laughing with relief, glad to have me back safe, certain I was still the same man who had left them. I managed a weak smile. I wanted to believe I was too. But only time would tell if any of us could keep a scrap of our humanity in this nightmare world. All I could do was try to hold on to mine and keep my friends alive another day. Try to be the good guy, even when there weren't any good options left. So I pushed my doubts down deep and joined my friends in grateful celebration of still being human, at least for today.